radio studio at the George Washington Broadcast Center. Jack Armstrong and Joe Getty. Armstrong and Getty Show.
You're going to work with Democrats to come to agreement on a budget.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. I first think our very first responsibility, we both should have to pass a budget. We both should have to pass the appropriation bill so the country can see the direction we're going. But you cannot continue the spending that has brought this inflation, that has brought our economic problems. We've got to get our spending under control.
Okay.
So that's Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy, his first big interview on Face the Nation. And we'll get to the money clip, literally and figuratively, here in just a second. But it is true that the Republicans, when they have the White House and are spending like crazy, don't bring up fiscal responsibility. And then when the Democrats are in charge, they do care about it. The Democrats have the advantage of never caring about it. Sure. So they can do the same thing and not feel bad about it. Yeah. A friend of mine who donated a whole bunch of money to a politician so he could get a face-to-face with George W. Bush, donated that much money, walked away from the whole situation saying, we have two parties, the tax and spend party and the spend and spend party. The Republicans are just the spend. I mean, I don't like the whole tax and spend thing, but it's better than just spend and spend, I suppose. I suppose, yeah. Neither one of them are good. Anyway, do I want to play this clip first before I fill this in or not? Let's play this clip first. Here's Kevin McCarthy talking about the things they won't. 60 and 61, so whichever one we didn't play.
Are you willing to consider any reductions to Social Security and Medicare?
No, let's off the table.
Completely.
I mean, if you read our commitment to America, all we talk about is strengthening Medicare and Social Security. So, and I know the president says he doesn't want to look at it, but we've got to make sure we strengthen those.
What do you mean by strengthen? Do you mean lift the retirement age?
No. What I'm talking about, Social Security and Medicare, you can keep that to the side. What I want to look at is they've increased spending by 30%, $400 billion in 4 years. So, continuing to go with the we're not going to touch Social Security or Medicare. No, put those to the side. Those are off the table. Just let me, as we mentioned last hour, you have one goal as a politician, apparently, win the next election. And McCarthy, probably rightly, thinks that bringing up dealing with Social Security or Medicare makes it less likely you win the next election. So we're going to pretend that you can get our spending under control without getting into those two topics. You can't. It's mathematically impossible. And everybody knows it. He knows that. Schumer knows. Everybody knows that. But they all pretend it's not true. Right. I would agree completely. And getting back to the whole they both do it, but at least the Democrats get to enjoy it thing. I'm sure there are Republicans, maybe it's Chip Roy, maybe it's whoever in the Congress and the Senate who's serious about we can't do this to our grandchildren. We can't. And Kevin McCarthy probably goes to them with polls and says, it shows here that you will lose your race by 6. And they're like, well, wait a minute, that's the highest margin ever in the history of the world. Yeah, you will lose by 70 points if you say you're going to alter in any way Social Security and Medicare. So and you're telling me, if I go to my voters and say to them, we're going to raise the age where you get Social Security by 3 years, but it won't kick in until after you're long gone, I'm still going to lose? Yes. You're still going to lose. Yes, you'll get murdered. And the cynical's view, the cynical person's or the realist's view, it depends, I suppose, where you're sitting. How to describe that person would be, all right, America, the voter, excuse me. I'm choking on my disgust. The voter has absolutely zero desire to do the right thing. None. The only way this gets fixed is when it becomes a crisis, a disaster, a terrible, terrible crisis. Knowing that, why would we punch ourselves in the face for the next 15 years when it's going to be the same result? Either we could win about half the elections and deal with other stuff, or we could lose every single election by begging America to do the right thing
and we end up at the same 2035, the Social Security system, Medicare, are insolvent. We need giant tax increases, or we'll drive the national debt $50 trillion. Look at me saying million and billion in my head before I got the trillion. We'll push the debt to $50 trillion. That's what's going to happen. Let's just enjoy the ride. One thing that Kevin McCarthy did put on the table, which is pretty unique for a Republican Party, was cutting the Pentagon budget, which is pretty interesting. So a whole bunch of people are saying, the more money for the Pentagon crowd always says this is a dangerous time. I mean, I've been making that argument my whole life. But I think you can legitimately believe this is as dangerous a time on the planet for world order as we've had in a very long time. And it's pretty amazing that the Republicans talking about. And so he said, are you going to tell me there's not waste somewhere in the Pentagon? Well, of course there is. But it's pretty surprising the Republican Party's talking about cutting in the Pentagon, but unwilling to even contemplate, even discussing Social Security and Medicare. I'm surprised by that. Yeah, Reason.com had a great piece the other day. They said, and I quote, refusing even changes to Social Security might be a tidy way to pander to older Americans, but it's not a functional plan for entitlements. In fact, it's actually an impossible situation. If Congress refuses to do anything to alter Social Security's trajectory, benefit cuts will automatically kick in when the program hits insolvency. That point will be reached in 2035, according to the most recent numbers. If that happens, the trustees estimate... Which is now just 11 years away. And man, oh man, that'll go by fast. Yeah, 11 or... Yeah, all right, yeah. If that happens, the trustees estimate that Social Security will be able to pay only 80% of promised benefits. Promising to do nothing, then, amounts to promising a 20% benefit cut in a little more than a decade. There's no getting around that fact, except that they will drive the national debt to $50 trillion. And soon, U.S. savings bond will be about as reliable as shares of FTX. And, of course, you've got the other problem of... this year, this is what's already budgeted for this year, we will take in $4.9 trillion. That's a record. That's the most money any country in the history of the planet has ever taken in taxes. $4.9 trillion. Unfortunately, we will spend $5.9 trillion. We will spend $1 trillion more than we take in. Already about $32 trillion in debt. And if you've ever gotten yourself into credit card trouble, I've never gotten myself into credit card trouble like this, but I've known plenty of people have had, where your payment, you're so far in debt and you can only make the minimum payment, you're really only just paying the interest. You're hardly even touching the balance. And it gets pretty depressing pretty fast. Well, that's where we are as a country. We're going to be spending like $1 trillion a year here in a few years on just making our interest payments on the debt. I mean, that's insane. More than we spend on the Pentagon, on the world defense, and we spend more than any other country in the world by far. So here are some of the numbers, and they are sobering. The combined shortfall for Social Security and Medicare, will amount to 6% of the gross domestic product. That's the shortfall by the mid-2040s. That translates to about $1.4 trillion in today's dollars, although the actual amount will change. Keeping those two programs solvent without cuts would therefore require a tax increase of well over $1 trillion, about 20% more than, 20% more than the total tax revenues right now. If Congress passed, say, a 9% payroll tax hike, that would not be enough. It would also need to create something like a 20% value-added tax, which would function like a federal sales tax to cover the rest of the shortfall. So a 9% payroll tax increase and a 20% federal sales tax to cover the deficit. So when this has to happen... I'm sorry. To keep things the same, never mind paying down your credit card bill in the manner you were discussing. If I live long enough to see all this happen, I don't know if I'm going to be able to take it when people are just screaming and whining about how did we get here. Well, when the mob of the angry young comes to your door with their tone dabs and their non-gray hair and announces that they're here to beat you to death for bankrupting their world, I'm just going to say make it quick. I mean, what's the counter argument going to be?
Wow.
We tried. Hey, I had a radio show. What's radio? Oh boy, it was like a website you heard in your car. Anyway, shut up, old man. Anyway, we used to yell at the politicians, telling them to stop it. Yeah, all right, fine. Let's get the beatings. Let's get started on the beatings. Here's one other thing you ought to know, though. Nobody exactly knows what would happen if we didn't pay our debts for the first time ever. If we defaulted on our loans for the first time ever. Almost everybody predicts it would be quite hellish in terms of what it would do to the markets and our credit rating and all that sort of stuff. That won't happen. There's no chance of that because we do take in $4.9 trillion. I mean, it's the equivalent of you've got a lot of debt, but you have a job and make good money. Well, so you can cover your rent and your credit card bill, every month. You're going to be able to do that. Well, that's 3 hours a country. The Treasury Department takes in enough money every month to pay the bill. But they're not going to be able to pay other things. Other things are going to have to fall by the wayside. Or, again, massive tax increases. So there's no way we're going to default on our debt, but other things are going to have to get cut hard. I mean, if we go over the cliff, if enough holdouts actually don't raise the debt limit, etc. It's not immediately we default on our debt. That'd be crazy with the kind of money that we take in every year. Hey, it's time to call France and say, hey, Louisiana, do you want it back? The Louisiana Purchase. How about a Louisiana refund? Can we give it back? Hey, Russia, would you like Alaska? Is that what we're looking at? I'm not sure Russia's in a position to pay for anything, but you got the idea. Who had Florida? Florida's actually doing pretty well these days. Probably the Spaniards. I don't get the idea the Spaniards are doing much these days. What do we have that's worth a lot? Yosemite. Hey, China, you want to buy Yosemite? How about naming rights? Pepsi Valley. Or Pepsi Gorge at Yosemite Valley. I like Verizon Wireless Mount Rushmore. Sure, why not? And naming rights be obligated, yeah. If you mention Mount Rushmore, you have to say Verizon Wireless Mount Rushmore. Right, that's what we need to start doing. Every interstate, instead of I-80, it's Dunkin' Donuts. Did you take I-80? Oh, you mean Dunkin' Donuts? That's the freeway I take. I think this will work. It's a pretty good idea. We're clever people. Surely we can figure this out, right? Right? Anybody? Somebody? Much more on the way. Text line 415-295-KFTC.
Armstrong and Getty.
Attention. If you owe money to the IRS, this is an important announcement. The IRS is gearing up for collection actions like never before, reinstating their forced compliance policies by levying bank accounts, garnishing wages, and seizing property. Penalties and interest compound daily, making it seem impossible to get out of tax debt. Don't let the IRS destroy your life. Call Tax Network USA, one of the nation's leading tax relief firms. Their attorneys and licensed tax professionals have proven strategies to swiftly settle your tax matter for good. Tax Network USA, an A+ rated firm, has saved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. And with their client satisfaction guarantee, they will fight for you to get the best deal possible with the IRS. Call Tax Network USA now, 1-800-245-6000. That's 1-800-245-6000. 1-800-245-6000.
Don't wait your rights, we'll fight for you. Saving money on your taxes, that's you.
It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity during tax season because so much sensitive was all together. Before we start the annual meeting of Sean's personal info, has anyone seen Social Security number? Not me. Nope. Oh no. He's been stolen. LifeLock by Norton makes it easy to help protect yourself. If you become a victim, we'll work to fix it. No one can monitor all transactions, but you can. News at LifeLock.com. Identity theft protection starts here.
Right here at the Big Game headquarters. Total Wine and More, scoring huge savings on the perfect bourbon. Local craft beer.
Forgetting something?
Oh yeah, Cabernet, seltzers, and so many low prices.
Fine thing, it's right after.
Okay.
You got this. Total Wine can help you score the perfect bubbly too.
Thank you. Your Big Cane headquarters. Love what you find, always at the lowest price. price, only at Total Wine and More. Drink responsibly, B21.
We've told you so much about the Jameson team, Bob and Sandy Jameson with Toscana Properties selling your home, and they're absolutely wonderful about that. But what about a business? I mean, for instance, you have Lillian Wing, owned a Chinese restaurant for 20 years. Great place. They had some health concerns. They knew it was time to sell. Well, they enlisted the help of the Jameson team, quickly found them a buyer through their extensive marketing programs. They were able to sell the business for a great price and close out that chapter of their lives. They can now retire and focus on things in life.
And heck yeah, interest rates have gone up. How will this affect the housing market? What will it do to buyers, to sellers? Well, get the right answers from agents who truly know. That's the Jameson team.
Yeah, call the folks we would call to sell our homes, Bob, Sandy Jameson and the Jameson team, or our businesses for that matter. I've been in real estate. I know who to trust, and I would call the Jameson team at 408-686-HOME. That's 408-686-HOME, or go online, sandyhasbuyers.com, and they do have buyers. sandyhasbuyers.com.
The Jameson team, Toscana Properties, DRE 45393.
How'd you like a potential to participate in credited interest from market-indexed returns and limit the downside? Join Edmund Brown for the Safe Money Radio Show. Call Edmund Brown for your complimentary Safe Money Radio Kit and Safe Money Radio Book at 1-844-306-SAFE.
Disputes that end up in litigation can go on and on and on. So before you spend a lot of time, money, and stress for no guaranteed outcome, strongly consider mediation with attorney Denise Eaton-May. Virtually any dispute, will contest, real estate, landlord-tenant, to LGBT discrimination, Denise Eaton-May can stop the fight. Settle your dispute so you can move on. Litigation is costly, and the courts are backlogged. Mediation, however, is effective, immediate, involves much less risk and money. And if you're not satisfied, you can always litigate. Seriously, life's short. Call Denise Eaton-May for a mediation consultation, 510-244-3307, or visit DEMLegalEagle.com. Probate, intellectual property rights, to estate planning disputes. Mediation allows you to resolve your dispute under your own rules, not the court. Denise Eaton-May is a Bay Area-based lawyer with over 3 decades experience. That's 510-244-3307. DEMLegalEagle.com.
This is the story of a very special woman. Just a few knew about her superpowers. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Dad, have your pills, made your lunch, and your laundry is done.
When you care for a loved one, you take care of everything. But are you taking care of yourself? Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
The Armstrong and Getty Show.
My phone has just started playing music, like it's been hacked.
It's that artificial intelligence. It used to be your phone, now it's its own phone. I just turned the volume down, just like started cranking out music. I think I've been hacked. Oh, hackers. Weird. Coming up, what about Russia and Ukraine? Well, are coming back. I'm sorry, Russian inmates who have been compelled to be soldiers or bribed are now coming back from the front, and it ain't pretty. Also, speaking of things that are not pretty, the beating to death of the young man in Memphis. Put a comment on that.